heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life mending broken people. Hello, friends. Welcome to Thursday Night Live here at the 3ABN Production Center in West Frankfort. We thank you for taking the time to tune in, and I know you're going to be excited about this program because it's about missions, global missions, and that is the driving force behind the gospel. When Jesus said, "Go into all the world," he didn't mean just to preach. He meant to touch lives in various ways. He meant to transform lives, to provide their needs, to show them that God is not just the one who speaks the gospel, but the gospel reaches down and touch with compassion. And our guest today, we're going to have about various guests between the first hour and second hour, and this program is totally live. So you may want to hit the record button as you follow the program, because I know it's going to be not only informational, but also transformational, and it's going to also be challenging. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for what you do for this network as we continue going and growing, getting ready for the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. Tonight we have two guests, Gary Krause and Rick Kajiura.
Very good.
I tried to give you some ethnicity. Good to have you here both tonight.
Thank you.
And missions is an amazing topic, and we're so glad to be able to share this hour with you, these 2 hours. We're going to have some wonderful video rolls. If you're driving in your car, don't try to look at the video rolls. But if you are watching from home, we pray that you'll pay particular attention, because we're going to be going all over the world, different parts of the world, through these video rolls. And there's some surprises in them, so you stay tuned. And you may want to hit the record button just in case I didn't say that. But before we go any further, we always have music. And I want to encourage you to sit back as Jamie George. He's a guy that doesn't just play music. He feels it, he communicates it, and he is going to get our hearts ready by the song, All Hail the Power and Praise the Lord medley. Now You Can Take a Breath. That was a powerful song. Thank you so much, Jamie, for that wonderful song, All Hail the Power and Praise the Lord medley. You know, tonight I want to introduce our guests who are here tonight. Gary Krause. Since you're so close, I'm just going to reach out my hand and say welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you, my friend.
It's always good to have you here when we talk about missions. And Rick, good to have you here. I tried to add some ethnicity there because I appreciate the uniqueness of your name. Did I say it pretty close?
You said it the correct way, probably. I'm
Okay.
Japanese background, and that's how they would say it. I did not grow up in Japan, so
Okay.
I have a very Western way of saying it.
Okay, and what's the Western way?
Kajiura.
Okay, well, we'll take both of them tonight.
I like yours better.
They both work.
Yeah, Kajiura. It just sounds sound like it came from Japan. But briefly to our viewers and listeners, because there are those who are driving, somebody may say, Gary Krause, I know him very well, but others may say, who is Gary Krause? Give us a nutshell description of who you are and what you do and where you're from.
Okay, I'm an Australian working at the headquarters of the Adventist Church in the Office of Adventist Mission, and we care for global mission, church planting in new areas, and mission awareness.
Okay, good to
And
have
I
you.
am the husband of a beautiful wife, Bettina, and a 14-year-old daughter.
Okay, Australia.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we'll be there
and a
not
new
too long
puppy.
from now.
Yeah.
What were you going to say on that one,
And a
Rick?
new puppy.
Oh, yeah, and a new puppy, a
And a new-
10-week-old puppy.
Okay, what kind do you have?
It is a Cavapoo.
Okay,
It's a poodle mix with something else.
a pretty dog that doesn't
Beautiful
shed.
dog.
Okay,
Exactly.
good. That's good. Well, you know, when you get older, you like those kind of dogs. They don't shed. Just
Exactly.
come in the house, but don't bring anything, don't evidences with you.
Hypoallergenic, yeah.
Yes, and Rick, good to have you here. And you've
Good to
been here
be here.
before. You're not a stranger to 3ABN.
I have been out here many times for many years.
Okay. Well, let our viewers and listeners know who you are.
So I am Rick Kajiura, and I am the Communication Director for the Office of Adventist Mission at the Seventh Adventist Church World Headquarters. And I grew up in Canada.
Okay.
I now live in Maryland, and Japanese background, but I don't say my name the way the Japanese would. So
Okay. Well, I just helped your heritage tonight.
you sure did.
Okay, good to have you here tonight. Tell us about missions and give us a little overview of Adventist missions.
Yeah, sure. We care for two areas, as I said, global mission, church planting, with a particular focus on new people groups and geographical areas. So the cities loom large on our horizon. And tonight, we are focusing specifically on the annual sacrifice offering, which we collect once a year,
Yes.
that goes to help global mission work around the world. And so that will be funding church planters, usually indigenous workers working among their own people. It will help with urban centers of influence
Yes.
in the great cities of the world, and helping us to build bridges of understanding with different religions and worldviews that we really haven't interacted with in the past.
Yes. Talk about urban centers of influence, because that's
Yeah.
I know what that is, but somebody might say, well, okay, it's an influential center in an urban community, but
Yeah.
broaden onto that pretty much in a nutshell.
Basically, it's an idea that was floated 100 years ago by Ellen White, the co-founder of the Adventist Church, prophet
Okay.
of the Adventist Church. And she talked about ministry centers in urban areas that would be platforms for putting Christ's method of ministry into practice.
Okay.
So rather than coming into an urban area and just preaching at people,
Right.
we actually come and we mingle, we look and listen, we find out what their needs are, we show sympathy, we minister to those needs, and we win confidence of people, and that takes some time, and then we bid them to follow Jesus. So an urban center of influence could be a cafe, it could be a restaurant, it could be a secondhand clothes store, it could be English as a second language center. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's connecting with urban needs.
Okay. And Rick, as a communications director, how have you seen add your components to what your experience has been with Adventist missions?
Well, as Gary said, we focus on two areas, and one is just helping church members around the world understand what the church is doing in mission, because sometimes you don't hear about it. And when you are a global church, it's nice to know that there are people doing things in other parts of the world. As far as the global mission side and reaching the unreached, when you think about, well, who are the unreached? And if you think that of the entire world population, 1/3 is Christian, that means 2/3 of the world has not heard the gospel, hasn't heard about Jesus, they don't know him. So that's a tremendous challenge that still remains out there.
Yeah, that's a wall if you really think about it, because in any society, I mean, doesn't even mean in modern times, but in all generations, it's hard to walk into a people group that don't even know who you are and just immediately penetrate their intellect to just share with them a gospel that they are completely unfamiliar with. So you take the measure, when they see that you're concerned about their needs. Talk about some of that. How do you work that in there? How do you kind of get past that roadblock, as it were?
Well, I think that when we meet people where they're at, rather than expecting them to come to us, that's a very important first step. It's not just a matter of trying to attract people to us, to our programs, to our initiative. We actually follow Christ's example of going to where people are, which is an incarnational model. And, it's not easy. I mean, and it wasn't easy for Jesus to come to a totally different context, but that's what mission is all about, moving out of our comfort zones to meet people where they're at. And as Ellen White says, that this model, Jesus' method of ministry, is the only method that brings true success. That we actually connect with people at their level, at their needs. We win their confidence, and once you have people's confidence, they're open to listening to the good news about Jesus.
Right, you're not crossing a bridge, you're actually building a bridge.
Exactly.
And you're building that bridge together.
Exactly.
You want to add something to that, Rick?
Well, I just think that, as we're building bridges, people come from so many different backgrounds that if we understand better where they're coming from, we can help them get to where we would like them to be, which is to know Jesus.
That's right.
Well, sometimes we're good at preaching, but we also need to be good at listening first.
That's very good. When you listen, you hear, and when you speak, you don't hear. But we have some, I'm excited about this program tonight. You have some really good information, video information, that will help people that are watching the program to understand some of the areas of the world where Adventist missions have really penetrated. I want you to set up our first video here. It's a Feed the University, Feed the Community. Talk about that.
Okay,
it's a very interesting title.
So this is in the country of Mozambique, and there are missionaries from Brazil who have gone over there to work at the university, and this is their story. So when people in the Adventist Church give mission offerings and they say, where do they go, what do they do, these are some of the things that they are helping support.
Okay, well, let's look at that video roll right now.
Nós estamos aqui.
We are in front of Adventist University of Mozambique. It is located in Beira, which is near the center of the country and right of the sea. The story of how we arrived here is interesting. I was a theology professor in Faama, the Adventist University of the Amazon, near Belém, Brazil. Malu, my wife, was the educational coordinator in the same institution. We were very comfortable. But then I received an email inviting me to teach at the Adventist University of Mozambique. I was uncertain at first. I had never thought about overseas mission. What would it be like? How would my family adjust? Many things went through my mind, but I had to share the news with my wife first.
When he told me about the email, I responded, "Really? Let's go. Let's go right away."
Malu's response caught Dr. Geraldo by surprise. Part of him hoped she would turn down the invitation, but when she immediately accepted it, he saw it as God's approval to go. When they arrived, the university campus was in decay, and the students and staff lacked the most basic necessities like food.
This is a charcoal oven. You put the charcoal below and the pan on top. It is a typical oven in this nation. One day, I found a school worker cooking rice in a small pan with a bit of cabbage on top. I asked him if that was his only meal for the day. The man said, "Yes, this is my only meal today." So I asked him if that was going to be enough to feed him, and he said, "Oh no, this is not just for me, it's for me and 2 other people."
Dr. Geraldo returned to his office in tears. He and Malu knew the students couldn't study and learn on empty stomachs, so they prayed together for God to provide. He answered their prayer through a missionary who donated funds to start a cafeteria. Now the university serves daily meals to students and staff. Many other positive changes are happening at the Adventist University of Mozambique. New school buildings and fields of study have been added, and the student body has doubled in 2 years. The campus church was dilapidated and the roof leaked when it rained, but now it has been renovated. A new library was built and books were donated, and the university has now received the highest level of accreditation in Mozambique. The faculty has also developed a mission institute to equip students for mission in action.
After lunch on Sabbath, students come here to receive training. Then they are divided into groups to visit children, elderly, former members of the Adventist church, and the sick, giving Bible studies as they go. Visiting the surrounding area has greatly impacted both the community and the lives of the students. Some people we reach out to have already accepted Jesus and were baptized.
In the previous year alone, this program has strengthened the faith of many, even resulting in 17 baptisms, and the excitement for mission continues to grow.
We aim to develop a fully mission-minded university that prepares students to fulfill God's mission for us.
God can use us, even in simple ways. God has used us, and we feel like we're making a difference here.
But there are still many challenges ahead. Students and staff at the Adventist University of Mozambique now pray for funds to expand the food and nutrition department with a hands-on learning environment. Their goal is to hold health expos so they can share the health message with the community. Please pray for cross-cultural missionaries like Dr. Geraldo and Malu, who are serving in remote parts of the world. Pray also for the goals of the Adventist University of Mozambique. And thank you for your support of Adventist Mission.
I know you enjoyed that video. I got hungry toward the end of the video. Did you see those rolls coming out of the oven?
I smelled them.
Boy, I thought, man, right now is a good time to just have some of those right here with a little bit of butter. But we talked about this at the beginning of the program, about the annual sacrifice offerings.
Yes.
Tell us how significant that is when it comes to programs and missions like this.
Sure. You know, back in 1922, the Adventist Church mission program was in crisis. The Treasury looked at the funds they had, they looked at their mission program, they could no longer fund it. So they got together a committee of conference presidents, they prayed about it, and they came up with this idea of, let's ask every pastor, every church worker to give up a week's salary. And that started the annual sacrifice offering. It was a weekly sacrifice offering. And so that rescued the mission program in 1923, and since then we've continued on with an annual sacrifice. Some people give up a week's wages, some sacrifice something else. When I was a kid, I remember my parents would give up every year a week's salary. But today we just encourage people that this money is now going to global mission, which will be starting new groups of believers in new areas of the world and among new people groups. And every cent that is given to annual sacrifice offering helps that specific mission. It funds global mission pioneers, planting churches. It helps fund centers of influence. So it is what is multiplying the work of the church around the world. So last year, every 4 hours, a new Seventh-day Adventist church was organized somewhere, plus many new companies. And that would not happen if it wasn't for a focus on church planting.
And Rick, you talked about a specific area of the world where this helps quite a bit. Was it 1040 window?
The 1040 window is an area of the world. It's 10 degrees north latitude to 40 degrees north latitude, basically from the Middle East all the way to Asia. And if you look at the entire world, that is where we have the fewest Christians in the world.
Wow.
So it stretches from Northwest Africa through the Middle East into Asia, 60% of the world's population. And the vast majority of those people have not even heard the name Jesus.
Wow. And programs that are funded like this, fixing up colleges, even planting schools and libraries and programs for the community is what opens the doors for the gospel to go.
It often does, yes.
Yeah. And I want our viewers and listeners to know that throughout the program, we're going to be talking about ways that you can become a supporter of this annual sacrifice offerings. A couple of ways you can do that. One is the website global-mission.org, global-mission.org/my sacrifice. You can go to that website and donate there, or you can call right here at 618-627-4651. That's once again 618-627-4651, and also specify that your donations are going to be for Adventist missions, and we'll make sure that you receive those offerings. But one of the things I'm excited about, the idea that 1040 window, and I've heard about that 1040 window for a number of years. It's a difficult window to penetrate because there's so many different religions that are there that tradition has created almost in some cases an impenetrable wall. But I've seen missions, the needs of people, opening doors, and then people begin to say, wait a minute, they're not just interested in telling us. We're seeing the gospel in action. Why are they so sacrificial? Why are you doing this? Well, because this is the mission of Jesus.
Right.
Who? And the doors open up. Set up the next video for us. This is very interesting, the compassion unit.
So part of what we do is focus on that 1040 window in the unreached areas, and part of what we do is just, as I said, talk about what mission offerings are doing. And every quarter of the year, we have a special offering in the church called the 13th Sabbath Offering. And so this is one of the projects from a past 13th Sabbath Offering. It's in Tanzania. I had a chance to visit here after the offering was taken, and they were building a hospital there. And you're talking about my last name.
Yes.
When I land in Kenya and Tanzania, and they see my name, and I get off the plane, they're looking and they say, I thought you would be from here, because they have a very similar name over there. And my wife was a missionary's kid in India, and in India they have a similar name as well, Kajiura. And so when she told them she had married somebody, and they said, what's his name? And she told them, she says, oh, you married an Indian.
Okay.
So when I was in Tanzania, I said, I am here. I am Japanese, Canadian, Indian, African.
Okay. Fully international, but a man involved in the compassion of the mission. We're going to right now look at the compassion unit, and this has taken us to Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Adventists in Mwanza, Tanzania, sold cows, goats, and other possessions to build a new medical facility to replace the small, overcrowded Adventist clinic.
We have a lack of space for admission of patients. That's why we try to build this facility here.
Knowing this was a big dream, in 2013, they asked for your help through prayers and donations to the 13th Sabbath Offering.
We appeal them to support us in offering, in prayers, in order to complete this project. I think when we are dealing with patients, people may see Jesus through this project, through these services that we are doing.
Your generous giving to the mission offering helped build a beautiful medical facility that is spreading a message of hope to the people of Mwanza. The medical staff's dream is now a reality as they admit patients into the facility. So many people began coming here that they not only used the new hospital building, they even had to expand the existing clinic. People come to this clinic because it's known as a place with caring doctors and nurses, and the staff take pride in their approach to medical care.
The compassion that is in this hospital, the way we handle patients is different. We don't handle them like customers or people who bring to us money. We handle them with care. Their safety and their well-being is our priority.
Each morning, hospital staff meet in an unfinished space for devotional time.
This hospital is different because first we start with prayers in the morning. And personally, if I miss them in the morning, my day is usually not the same compared to when I wake up early and I come early to the morning devotion every day. So when we start with prayers, it's like Holy Spirit is with us when we see patients.
Angela had a tumor growing in her stomach that caused her pain for 2 years. All she could do was lie in bed. She didn't know where to go for help until someone told her about the Adventist hospital.
Before I came here, I was hopeless. I thought I was going to die. But when I came to this hospital, I felt well again, completely.
Hospital staff prayed for Angela, and after intense surgery, doctors successfully removed the tumor.
I felt hope after the doctors came in. They didn't sleep day or night for me.
Although she still needs to take it easy, Angela is now able to perform household tasks that she wasn't able to do for the last 2 years. She and many other patients excitedly tell others about their experience in the hospital.
This hospital has been overloaded with God's power. I can testify to this because of the services I received and my experience here. I know the services are excellent and I really appreciate what I received. And I'm praying for this hospital now.
The hospital always follows up with its patients through a compassion unit. This dedicated team makes calls and visits former patients to stay connected and pray for them.
I'm proud of this ministry because I see patients change. Even last Sabbath, I saw a former patient get baptized. Their heart was transformed. They believed in God, and they're doing very well. It's so interesting to see how people change from their discouragement to a close relationship with God. They're growing physically and spiritually here, enough that people are being baptized.
Your contributions to the 13th Sabbath Offering in 2013 have made an impact in the lives of many people in Mwanza. Patients and staff are grateful for this building and how God has used it in powerful ways.
I thank everyone for what they have contributed, and I want to assure them that the money they offered is really being put in place, because we see people who really come back to us and they say, it is God in this place who have helped us. When we come here, we get healed. And that is not because we have good doctors, it's because we have God working in this place.
Please pray for the work being done in Tanzania and for this medical ministry. Thank you for helping people like Angela and for your continued support of the 13th Sabbath Offering.
That was interesting. Tanzania. I know I've met somebody from there once. They said Tanzania.
Oh,
the accents and the phonetics are quite different. But that's interesting. You call it. Why do you call it the Compassion Unit? That's a very interesting title.
Compassion Unit because it's not just the medical science.
Okay.
It's caring for people and loving people.
That's right. Compassion, which is compassion. A good friend of mine said, compassion gets down, pity looks down.
Ah, yes.
Makes all the difference. You're getting down there in the operating room, bringing hope to people like Angela talked about. She said, I didn't see any hope. I didn't see any future at all. And the other thing is you have a regular program on 3ABN called Mission 360. And that's a part of our, if you've been watching our network, you may have seen that program. It continues to bring the stories of missions to our viewers and keeps them going on a continual basis. Very interesting promo. I want our audience to see that promo, to let them know when you see this promo, you'll know who it's connected to. Gary and Rick and also other people that you're going to meet in the second hour. Just, it's called the Mission 360 TV promo. Very short, but check it out.
Mission 360 is designed to give you a 360-degree view of mission around the world. It takes you right to the people and right to the places where mission is happening. You'll meet global mission pioneers planting new congregations of believers. You'll meet missionaries. You'll visit urban centers of influence. You'll see how Christ's method is being followed as people are mingling, showing sympathy, ministering to needs, winning confidence, and bidding people to follow Jesus. Mission 360, keeping your eye on mission.
I love it, Mission 360. That's the global perspective. You're not going backwards, you're continuing to go around. How long have you been with Global Missions? I mean, Adventist Missions.
Well, you know, I started, I was communication director for Global Mission just over 20 years ago. So it's been in different roles my life for the last 20-something years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you live out of a suitcase. You have a suitcase on one of the seats in the plane.
Yeah.
And so you kind of probably sometimes mid-flight you say, where are we headed?
That's right.
That's good. And Rick, you get a chance to do the same thing. You jog the planet.
I do. We get to tell the stories, and so you've got to, if you want to show people, you need to be there to take the pictures and shoot the video. And,
That's right.
and I have some really good people behind me that do a lot of the excellent work that you see there. So.
In one of the videos we just saw, and if you're listening, we talked about 13th Sabbath Offering. For our audience, explain 13th Sabbath, because they might think, well, I've never heard that before.
And why 13? So if you divide the year up into weeks, and you split it into 4, it's 4 quarters in a year. Mm-hmm. And when you count the number of weeks, it comes out to 13th. Mm-hmm. So years ago, somebody said, let's do a special project every quarter. Mm-hmm. And they decided to call it the 13th Sabbath Offering. Okay. And so every 13 weeks, Adventist church members around the world find out what that project is, and they give money to support that project. And one of them was that hospital.
And that keeps the missions going. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason I asked for that, because there are two things. In the general public, people say the number 13 is a bad number, but not in the Adventist church. It's a good number, because 4 times a year, special offerings go to different projects around the world. And one of those is Adventist missions. Now, when you travel, Gary, sometimes while you're filming, the unexpected take place. Let's talk about that before we show this next roll.
Okay, sure. Well, you know, the Mission 360 TV program that you show on 3ABN, we do it on a budget. So basically we have a producer, cameraman, sound man who travels with me.
One person.
One person and me. And what happens, he looks at my schedule and where I have meetings, and I will stay an extra day where I'm traveling already, and he will come and we'll film at that place. So that keeps the budget down. So yeah, interesting things happen. And so several weeks ago we were in Costa Rica, and I was filming, and something happened that has never happened before, and it was captured on video.
Okay, this is interesting, because I feel badly if you're driving, but maybe later on you could see the program as it repeats when you get home on 3ABN. But this is a very interesting outtake. It's literally called Outtake/Police Chase while Gary Krause was in Costa Rica filming. Sit back and enjoy.
It's a former fortress, and then in 1948, during the Civil War, it served as a military barracks. Now, when you look at...
Now, I don't know if you caught it. We kind of edited that particular portion out just because people have different opinions about what took place. But explain what happened.
No, it's very clear what happened.
The police is chasing a suspect.
Yeah, chasing a suspect, and successfully grabbed him at the end, brought him down, handcuffed him, and it was recorded by Yali Simon, who was filming at the time. And just for fun, I posted it on Twitter.
Okay.
Well, I just checked this evening. It's up to 12,000 views and 800 likes and almost 200 retweets.
Wow.
Including from the Costa Rican police, who said it was a pleasure to serve. I got contacted by a reporter in Costa Rica wanting to ask about what was happening, why were we there. I found at least 4 or 5 news articles about this event, because it captured people's imagination, because suddenly captured on film here was the Costa Rican police doing their job.
Right.
But you don't expect that when you're
That's
filming
true.
Mission 360, right?
That's one of those extra bonus.
That's right.
They call that bonus footage.
Bonus footage.
Which they probably would use, unfortunately, in prosecuting this guy.
Exactly.
And they say, we caught you running and we got it captured on video. That's the unusual part about it. But you have some surprises when you travel. Do you ever travel together?
We do sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
And
how many countries, if you could think about it, have you had the pleasure of landing on and getting involved in missions?
I don't know, but I know it's more than 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. So your passport probably has wheels on it when you go.
I have 2 passports, and they run out pretty quickly.
That's good. But you know, every passport, every time you get a stamp, there's a person, there's a life, there's a project, there's a change, there's a conversion, there's a new light lit into that community.
Yeah.
So it's not just the beauty of traveling around the world, it's the beauty of I'm here, your boots on the ground for Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a huge difference. Now, we have been to Mozambique, we've been to Tanzania, we've been to Costa Rica. Let's talk about Brazil, the neighborhood noticed. I love that title. Let's talk about Brazil before we see this roll.
So this is a story from Brazil, and it's a very Christian country, but there are certain neighborhoods where at least the Adventist church is not present, and this is the story of somebody who lived in that neighborhood and an Adventist that he encountered, and what that connection did to his life.
Okay, the neighborhood notice, then sit back as you notice what the neighborhood noticed.
Salvador is known throughout Brazil for having a vibrant, unique culture. It boasts the fourth largest population in Brazil, with almost 3 million people. The Adventist Church has experienced significant growth here, with churches scattered throughout Salvador. Despite the strong Adventist presence, there are still unentered areas of the city. Global Mission is working to identify areas with no Adventist presence and establish new congregations there. Josenildo's neighborhood is one of these unentered areas. He was known as a drunk nuisance whose bad habits disrupted his family life and the whole community. Arivaldo, an Adventist, lived nearby and ran into Josenildo often on his way to work. Arivaldo knew he was looking for work, so he offered him a construction job, building churches. It didn't take long for the two of them to become friends. Arivaldo treated him with respect, which made Josenildo wonder why he was always so kind. Over time, Arivaldo asked if he was interested in Bible studies, and the two began reading the Bible together.
Before I met Jesus, I didn't have happiness. When I came to know Jesus, my life was transformed. And today, for God's glory, I am happy. My family also was transformed.
Josenildo was baptized and changed for the better. Even his neighbors took notice of his transformation. When the usual loud music from his home stopped one day, everyone wondered if he was okay. When they checked on him, they saw that Josenildo was a changed man. He spoke kindly to them and treated them respectfully, and they wanted to know what inspired these changes in his life. Josenildo used this opportunity to minister to his neighbors. Every Friday night, they gather in his living room to talk about their week. They bring their concerns, requests, and praises here. Josenildo points them to the Bible, showing them a Creator who cares deeply about them. There's even something for the children, as Josenildo's daughter leads an activity in the hallway. This group has grown close, and as a result, 10 people have already been baptized this past year, and more are studying for baptism. Small groups like this one are the core of church planting in Salvador. Small groups develop into congregations, and these congregations divide into more small groups that spread throughout the city. Nearly 5 years ago, the church leadership in Salvador State had an ambitious goal of building 1,000 churches in 5 years. They reached their goal, and the final church is being built where a new congregation will worship soon. The goal of building 1,000 churches across the state isn't just for the purpose of having new buildings. The church buildings represent ever-growing congregations of believers who, like Josenildo, have been changed by Jesus.
Jesus is good. Jesus transforms. Just as he transformed my life, he can transform anyone's life.
No matter the struggle someone may face, Jesus has the power to transform their life. And more lives are impacted as churches are planted throughout the world. Thank you for helping us change lives by supporting church planting through Global Mission.
You know, wherever the gospel is exercised, wherever the gospel is practiced, we cannot help but notice a change. This is a very interesting story about a gentleman who, I like the part of the video where they said when his music was no longer heard, they said, is he okay?
Yeah.
This is a transforming story, and as our viewers and listeners are noticing, this is what the annual sacrifice offering also helps to benefit. Talk about that briefly, just if somebody just joined the program.
Yeah, sure. So the annual sacrifice offering is a offering taken up once a year to help Global Mission do its work, which is to plant new churches among new people groups and in new geographical areas. And that's done not by just coming in and preaching at people, it's by living among people. I mean, Global Mission pioneers are our frontline workers, and they actually go and they live among the people. They get a basic living stipend, but they live among the people, they work with the people, they play with the people, they rub shoulders with the people, and they put Christ's method into practice. And they are planting churches in areas where we've never planted churches before, and nobody told them they couldn't do it.
I like that.
Under the power of the Holy Spirit. And the annual sacrifice offering helps provide money for those stipends. It helps provide money for resources and materials for pioneers to use. It also helps start centers of influence in urban areas to help put Christ's method into practice.
Wow, and we're seeing the difference. I'm looking at the videos. This is one of those programs I really enjoy because a lot of times, you know, we hear the testimonies, we say, oh, it's so exciting to be there, but then I'm thinking, man, I'd love to see it, but this program has put into practice, and I like that, Rick.
And sometimes people say, well, why plant churches? What is this new church planting thing we're talking about? And it's not new. The Apostle Paul was a church planter.
That's right.
Because he was going places where there were no churches, so what do? You just say, sorry, there's no church, you know.
That's the gospel. Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. Now this next one is pretty interesting. I'm thinking when I hear the title, the 10-kilometer church plant. We're going to Ecuador in just a moment. What is the 10-kilometer church plant?
Well, it's not a really big church plant.
Okay.
They used a 10-kilometer race to help connect with their community.
Okay, let's look at this. This is the gospel in motion, if I could say that, the gospel in sneakers.
Okay,
the 10-kilometer church plant. Check it out.
In Quito, Ecuador's capital city, a 10-kilometer race was just what a group of young Adventists needed to help them plant a church.
The idea came from a small group of youth. We used to gather together here in my living room, and we used to say, besides just being together and learning from each other's experiences, we need to do something else.
They decided they were going to plant a church in an unentered part of the city.
This is a small valley, but we have a couple of churches. And this neighborhood was isolated, so we decided that this neighborhood it's alone, they need their own church.
We knocked on doors and asked, do you want to study the Bible? It was a bad idea. The people responded, no, we don't even know you. Who are you? What do you want? So we got together again and we planned how we could reach the people.
And we started asking the community about their needs, and we found a lot of problems.
One of the most important necessities was health. So we planned to have a free consultations, lab test, and a health fair.
After much planning, the group calculated the cost of a health fair and found it would be about $3,000. But the group of young people and students couldn't afford to contribute that much. Every Wednesday, they went jogging together as a group activity. As they prepared for the weekly jog, someone came up with the idea to use their activity as a way to raise funds. They began organizing a 10-kilometer race where people can register and pay a small fee to enter. Any earnings from the race could go towards the cost of the health fair.
We started like just young people making plans. And we started like, you are going to do this, you're going to do this. And I felt like I was doing something big for Jesus. I took that as a big responsibility. I thought that it's a big job, it's a great opportunity to do something useful for the Lord.
We have never done any race like this before. We didn't even know where to start. Well, we decided to do it and set a date in 1 month. I don't know how God helped us through this. Because the permits to close the streets, many times you need a year to get permission. But we did it.
As a result of the race, they raised the money to conduct a health fair and start their church plant. And they also kept contact with many of the race participants. Each participant received a book included in their registration called The Power of Hope. These events opened doors to the community, and they studied the Bible with anyone who showed interest. They found a building to rent for church and were finally ready to open their own doors.
And we opened the first Sabbath, and it was only us. But we continued with the Bible studies, and we began seeing people come little by little.
Noemi and Miguel own a bakery next to the church. Sometimes during the week, people from the church went to buy things from their store. And one day, Noemi asked them about the church. She was invited to study the Bible with them the next Sabbath. As her faith grew, she prayed that Miguel would go to church with her, but he showed no interest. After a few months, as a birthday gift, he agreed to join her for one Sabbath only.
My first impression was that I didn't know anybody, but everybody knew me. They called me by name and said, "Miguel, welcome." I felt an immense love.
Miguel wanted to learn more, so he and Noemi asked for Bible studies at home. Eventually, they gave their hearts to Jesus and were baptized. Their bakery is now closed on Saturdays, but business has doubled on Sundays.
It's a radical change. When we were not baptized, when we didn't know the church, we had a lot of problems. Now it's different. We study together, go to church together, sing, and pray to God.
Miguel and Noemi's family is just one example of those who have come to know the love of Jesus, and they're excited to share what they've learned.
In my house, we have a small group that meets once a week. Our goal as a family is to share God's Word with other families so they can know God as we know Him.
About 10 people have been baptized as a result, and now Global Mission is helping this new church plant in this major city. Church members pray that their efforts through total member involvement will continue to spread God's love throughout the community.
The dream is that this church can grow and we can all see each other in heaven.
I feel satisfied with my work in here. I feel very grateful with God because I see how I can make a difference in this place, that I can serve Him.
It feels good to serve Jesus.
Please pray for Mission to the Cities, which focuses on reaching people in the largest cities in the world. Thank you for your support of Global Mission church planting projects in urban areas like Quito.
That's very interesting. Quito, Ecuador, putting the gospel into action, running for the gospel. You know, it reminds me of that text in the book of Micah, I think, and Haggai, that he who reads will run. And that's beautiful. That's an amazing project there in Quito, Ecuador. Now, the church, I can see it's growing now.
Yeah, it is. And it was just because these young people had a vision that it's not good enough for us to just sit around as a group of Adventists talking to ourselves.
That's right.
We need to do something for our community, and that's what happened.
That's right. That's amazing. You have one. Now we're going to go to Sri Lanka here in just a moment. How water opened the door.
Yeah.
Want to lead up into that?
Yeah, so this is, we've talked about the annual sacrifice offering, and this is actually Gary talking about what this does. And one of the things it does is help send out Global Mission pioneers. And we have a Global Mission pioneer in Sri Lanka who's using water to reach out to people.
Okay, let's go to Sri Lanka now and find out how water is opening the door for the gospel.
Global Mission pioneers are the unsung heroes of Adventist mission. Around the world today, hundreds of Global Mission pioneers, lay people, go to new areas and new people groups to start a new Seventh-day Adventist congregation. Many of the places where they begin work are areas where the church has never had any success in the past. but nobody has told the pioneers that they can't do it. And on a small living stipend, these pioneers go and live among the people, and they put Christ's method of ministry into practice. They mingle with the people in various ways, in the rice fields, playing soccer with the kids, in the cities. They show sympathy, they minister to needs in very practical ways, and then they win the confidence of the people and bid them to follow Jesus. I've seen pioneers using many, many different methods to meet the needs of the people, where they have embedded themselves like Jesus did incarnationally in the community. Historically, the annual sacrifice offering has come at the end of the week of prayer, and it's an opportunity for us to sacrifice for mission. So I encourage you to please give generously to this important offering. Let's go visit a global mission pioneer now.
In Sri Lanka, most young adults in their 20s continue pursuing their professional careers. But Rupan has taken a different journey. At age 23, Rupan realized God's unique purpose for his life and decided to use his training in natural remedies to serve as a global mission pioneer.
My heart is telling me to do God's work. I believe it was the Holy Spirit who convinced me to do His work. And that's why I choose to become a global mission pioneer.
He was sent to a town called Omantai, a primarily Buddhist community 274 kilometers away from the country's capital, Colombo. With a population of over 22 million, this South Asian country in the Indian Ocean is a land of rich diversity and culture. Home to various ethnic groups, religions, and customs, Sri Lanka has great opportunities for mission. Rupan tried to find ways to reach out to the community. As soon as he arrived, he started going around the city, visiting one home after another, and building relationships. After days of home visitations and understanding the community's way of life, Rupan realized that there was an enormous need for lifestyle development and medical assistance. He started going around the city again, this time introducing the Adventist health message, which stirred the interest and curiosity of the people he visited. One day, Rupan came across a family who owns a local hotel business. The head of the family suffered from diabetes, and his condition was worsening. Rupan's first visit with them wasn't easy. They found the health message hard to believe, but after giving it much thought, the hotel owner agreed to try it out. Rupan started the first session with a word of prayer, which was quite unusual for the hotel owner. He then prepared all the things he needed and then went on with the procedure. After months of consistent visits and water therapy sessions, the hotel owner's wounds started healing. Amazed by these improvements, the hotel owner became more excited to learn about the health message. In time, he accepted Christ and was baptized. Now he looks forward to growing more in Jesus.
By helping them, I can share God's love through this kind of treatment. I also learned how to share love and care more to others. So yes, this treatment is really effective in reaching people in this area.
Rupan is just one of many global mission pioneers sharing the gospel within the 1040 window. Please pray for Rupan as he continues to reach out to and touch lives through God's ministry of healing in these challenging areas of South Asia.
When you think about the ways that the gospel can open doors, water is one way, and that's not a proverbial statement, but in fact, Jesus is the living water. And so the Lord will use these opportunities in Proverbs. And Gary, it's amazing. As I'm looking at these various stories, we've been to Mozambique, Tanzania, Costa Rica, Brazil, Ecuador, Sri Lanka. we're talking about missions that continues to encompass the entire world.
Exactly. And that was the commission, right? Go ye into all the world, not just part of it.
That's right. And as we prepare, as you know, we have a wide shot here, and you see two other people, Greg and Amy Whitsett. Good to have you both here.
Thank you.
And we've lost our brother Rick, communication director for Adventist Missions. But in the second hour, we're going to have a lot more roles. And just briefly, 10 seconds, what do you do? How is your connection with Adventist Missions?
Greg and I direct the Center for Global Mission Center for East Asian Religions.
Okay, well, wonderful. And on the other side of that, we'll give you an opportunity, Greg, to give some more specifics. But as you know, we would like to let you know there's a second hour. We'll tell you more about how the missions of Adventist Missions is covering the world. So don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the second hour of Adventist Global Missions. We have with us the director, Gary Krause. Good to have you here,
Thank
Gary.
you.
If you're just joining us, you missed a phenomenal first hour, but we have some wonderful video rolls, and for those of you that are watching and listening to the program, you'll be able to hear how the gospel is transforming lives, and we've gone to many parts of the world. But before we go any further, we would like to introduce our new guests for the second hour, Greg and Amy Whitsett. Good to have you. I just mentioned briefly at the end of the first hour, Amy, but just go ahead and reintroduce yourself and in a nutshell tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do right now.
Well, my name is Amy, my husband Greg Whitsett, and together we run and direct the Global Mission Center for East Asian Religions.
Okay.
And so we're helping the church to understand how to better reach out to East Asians in particular.
Okay, and is it the 1040 window also? In that?
That's right. Primarily in the 1040 window, but there are a lot of people in the diaspora who are spread around the world, but primarily in the 1040 window.
Okay, and Gary, good to have you here. Greg?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually, if you look at the East Asian religions, this covers a population of over 1 billion people.
Wow.
A lot of times, what we're not interested in specifically is people who are deeply religious so much as people who have a worldview and value system that's shaped by these religions. They may be secular people living in the city, but we find that there's a disconnect between how we understand the Bible and how that sounds to them when they hear it, and trying to bridge that gulf of understanding.
You know, what's interesting about that is a lot of people, let's say Christians particularly, a program was done at our church not too long ago, and they invited like maybe 13 people to get up, and they say, okay, now for those of you that, what percentage of the people that are up here represent the majority of the world that has not heard the gospel? It was amazing. They said, okay, this one person represents the Christian population where the gospel was heard. The other 12 represent where the gospel has not been heard. It blew us away.
That's right.
And that's a reality. I mean, you're talking about a population of more than 1 billion people that have not heard the name of Jesus. Or if they have, they don't understand how to associate and communicate, and what does that relevant mean to them. So this is where Global Mission comes in.
That's right, and we can't just go with a set of 27 or 28 lessons in English produced in America for a particular audience and think that it's going to make sense to people from a different culture. It won't. It's just a totally different worldviews. There's many different assumptions, so we have to be as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves and ask for the Holy Spirit to help guide us to translate it into terms and concepts that are meaningful and understandable. And that's the challenge of our Global Mission Centers.
And that's what Greg and Amy is involved in, just helping us understand, okay, when we dive into the community of the varying religion, you're there studying, building relationships, and I guess you might have a list of do's and don'ts.
Right.
Because in America, you know, sometimes you could be bombastic. Hey, my name is John, I'm a pastor in the Adventist Church, and they say, what does that mean?
Exactly.
We actually lived in Southeast Asia in a Buddhist context for 16 years, and I remember the first year that we were there, one of my students, I was teaching English in the country, and one of my students came to me. He was a monk. And he said, I hear a lot about Christmas. I'd want you to tell me about this. What is this? And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity. I want to share with him. But where do you begin? And so I had to start with the fall and talk about the creation and how Adam and Eve, took the forbidden fruit and how that led to sin and suffering and death. And then came up and talked about Jesus' birth and his life and his ministry. And, well, I must tell about his death. So I shared about that, and I shared about the second coming. And at the end of it, this poor student of mine just was so confused and just was overwhelmed, and it didn't have any impact on him like I had hoped it had. And I think that a lot of times in our excitement to want to share, we haven't first listened to understand who they are and how they see the world around them, so that we can speak more intelligently and not just have words flowing through the air that they can't understand.
That was one of those experiences that you put a checkbox that, well, won't do that again.
You're right.
That's right.
But you've learned in the
That's
time
right.
that you've been there how to help those of us who come in fresh and excited and enthusiastic say, well, now that you're here, let me tell you how not to do it.
So if there's one thing that you should do, people want to know your experience.
Right.
And to actually have an opportunity to experience what we've experienced. And so we like to start with saying, what has Jesus done for me? And invite them to ask Jesus to also help them in some way so that they can see that he is actually real and he specifically cares for them. He's a personal God. Once they have that experience, faith is sparked, and now they want to know more information about who this God is.
And so one of the videos that we're going to watch in just a moment here is returning to Cambodia. You want to lead into that, or maybe just kind of prime that?
Sure. Pastor Wes Samko and his family, he's now the Adventist Mission Director for South Asia Pacific Division. And he and his wife used to live in Cambodia, and now he's back in SSD in the division, actually leading Global Mission, Adventist Mission there, and is part of a project, an urban center of influence, which we'll also see about in the city that he actually lived in while he was there.
Okay, returning to Cambodia. Sit back and enjoy.
We're here in Cambodia, and I am visiting with Wesley Samko, who is the Director for Adventist Mission for the Southern Asia Pacific Division. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
Fantastic. So I understand you actually used to live here in Cambodia as a missionary. Is that right?
Yes, we're here in Battambang, and I actually lived here as well as before that in Siem Reap, in a couple different places. So, yes.
Okay, so coming back now, you're the coordinator for the division, so I imagine you come to Cambodia often. How has the church changed since the time that you were actually living here full time?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, when we first came here, we moved into Battambang. It was an interesting thing because Battambang is the second biggest city in Cambodia. Okay. But even though it's the second biggest city, it's really not that big. But you kind of, Siem Reap, you get more of the touristy feel. Phnom Penh's the big city. Battambang kind of feels more like the heart of the people. Okay. And so as we're here, we came, we had to literally drive around and knock on houses to see if we could find a place to live. Oh. And, but when we went here, the church at that time was just a small handful of members, and we were worshiping in an older church that was made of wood, termite-ridden, ready to fall down with the next big wind. And the people here are so poor, just no ability to change anything. And I remember just praying to God, saying, God, how can this work be restored here? How can it grow again? Because it used to be a strong point when the church first began. How can it grow? And now there's a new UCI program that's happening here, a huge new center that's being built. The church is growing more vibrant. There's a lot of ministries happening to reach the surrounding communities again. So it's really exciting to see how, in a way, God answered that prayer as we prayed back then for the work of God to move forward and to branch out. So it's exciting to see how God has taken hold of the mission here and really spreading things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about their vision for the UCI? Like, what will it include?
Yes, I think for all urban centers of influence, which is what UCI stands for. Sorry, I always get caught up in these little letter things. Yeah. The whole purpose is to try to create an opportunity to connect with the community and to be able to really build those, not only just a chance to meet and talk with people. Now everyone's on their smartphone and it's hard to even have a conversation.
Even so here in Cambodia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. You go into a small village and somehow they have a smartphone. But anyway, so the idea is to try to create some kind of contact with the people so that there's an opportunity for relationship, but not just a casual conversation, something that allows the relationship to go deeper, so that there's opportunity to look for people who the Holy Spirit is working in, to look for spiritually interested people, and then working and partnering with God to try to really serve those people, to help them to know God and see God in a deeper way, so that they can begin their own relationship with God. So I think that's really the idea, is different things that will happen with the center. They're looking right now, starting with language lessons, music classes. There's some Bible classes and the group of believers that meets on Sabbath morning.
Right.
But to be able to extend those points of contact and ways of contacting with the restaurant and other things in the future, clinic, but really to be able to get into the lives of people, to really begin to see, who are those who God is working in? How can we help them grow, and how can we help them experience and disciple into a relationship and life with God?
Right.
So that's kind of the view, create those contacts, make those relationships, and see God work through them to create disciples.
All right. That's wonderful. I'm so excited to hear about this work.
Yeah, me too.
What are some of the specific challenges that Cambodia as a whole is facing, or the Adventist Church in Cambodia specifically?
Yeah. I think, as in many places, especially, since Cambodia went through such a devastating time during the years of the Khmer Rouge, there's a lot of pain and stuff in the lives of people, but also, some of the things that we expect in some of our other cultures from different places around the world, we have a history of education and of development and of growth. And so here, you can imagine kind of a generation being taken out and that's lost. And so really, I think in Cambodia, there's a lot of kind of restored education and growth and building of capacity again. And I think especially for the church, the church didn't exist for a while in this country. And as refugees began, we reached people in the refugee camps. They came back into the country and began to share their faith in different places in small groups and through a discipling process. But as that came back, as the church grows and as there's more need for different kinds of gifted people and individuals with leadership, to be able to really have the capacity and the knowledge and the skills and confidence to be able to reach out. So I think that is one of the huge things that we can pray for. God says pray for workers to go into the harvest field, but also for resources to be able to get the work done.
Right.
So I think those are two huge things that we can always pray for this country.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. That's powerful.
Thanks for your time also.
Appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to always pray for Cambodia and the work here.
That was Cambodia. We've been to a number of countries already, Gary and Amy and Greg. I'm saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And have you been to Cambodia?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that community, because, when we think of Cambodia, in my mind, I've been around long enough to remember Vietnam and those terrible days.
Right.
But now there's a different country that's existing there now.
Right. It is a different country. My impression is that they're still trying to figure out who they are, still trying to regrow their country, but they're doing it. And in fact, you'd be surprised if you go to Phnom Penh, the capital city, how much they've rebuilt and how modern it can be in some ways, but lots of traffic. I do remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody who goes to Phnom Penh will tell you that. But an amazing country with a lot of diversity there as well. Yeah.
That's good. And when you think of what made you choose this country for missions?
Well, it's a relatively new church in Cambodia insofar as after the Pol Pot regime and the genocide that happened there, a lot of people fled out to the refugee camps, etc. And actually the president of the Adventist Church in Cambodia today, Pastor Lim Peng, he actually was in the refugee camps. He became a Seventh-day Adventist, and his first role as a Seventh-day Adventist was to go back into Cambodia to see if there were any Adventists left. And so then the church was slowly rebuilt from there, and we've had quite a strong global mission program there to try to have pioneers to start new congregations, new believers. But it's part of the 1040 window. It's where the majority of the world's population live, but the fewest Christian resources go there. When you look at where the Christian dollar is spent, the vast majority is spent on ourselves. So global mission is a reminder that our responsibility as followers of Jesus is to go into all the world, not just to care for ourselves.
Wow,
That's why Cambodia is on our list.
That's right, all the world. It amazes me, I think I heard a pastor say this not too long ago, when people say, well, you know, will Jesus hurry up and return, hurry up and get here? I remember one of the pastors, I won't mention his name, but he said sometimes that can come across in an arrogant way when there's so much of the world that hasn't even heard his name yet. And so that's what you're doing. You're getting the gospel into the unreached people groups of the world. And Cambodia is a part of the world, as you said, rebuilding itself still, because it wasn't too long ago. When we think about the atrocities that happened during the bombing, the Nagasaki and Hiroshima, those places, but I'd sure love to go there and see it. Maybe you guys could have me in your suitcase. People always tell us that, but I've never been to Cambodia, so just think about that, Gary. Don't think too long.
I've thought about it.
But set up the next one, a haven for service. Who'd like to just tell us what that's all about?
Sure. In the city of Battambang, the second largest city in Cambodia, the church wanted to set up a center of influence to reach the people who were there. And so they've opened or built a building that's serving as a like a lifestyle center, a clinic, doing music lessons, language lessons, all kinds of things in Battambang.
So that's another example of what annual sacrifice offering goes toward, to help start centers of influence like this in urban areas.
And just before we watch this video, I want to remind you that, thank you, Gary, for leaning into that, because this program also is not just to inform you, but also to find ways of encouraging you to participate, because many of you watching or listening to the program might not be able to buy a ticket tomorrow and go to Thailand or Cambodia or Tasmania or many of the places we talked about so far, but you can participate in your financial giving. And I like the phrase sacrificial giving, because when you give large, you make a large impact. And knowing the way that finances are really held in high regard and accountability, and among missionaries and ministries like this, the majority of your funds are going there to make that direct impact. And so you may want to call that phone number on the screen. If you want to make a donation, you can call here at 3ABN 618-627-4651. That's 618-627-4651. Or if you want to go to their website, global, as it sounds, mission.org/my-sacrifice. global-mission.org/my-sacrifice, and you can make your donations there. But now let's go to that video, A Haven for Service, as Amy primed our hearts to see what our eyes are going to experience.
I feel so worried because my foot is getting bigger and bigger. It is causing me so much pain. I have a tumor in my foot. I have no solution. I feel so disappointed.
Sareda is just one of the 15 million individuals in need of proper healthcare treatment in the country of Cambodia. According to recent studies, there is an average of one doctor to every 4,300 people and one hospital bed for every 1,400 patients in Cambodia. Access to a proper healthcare system has never been an option for many Cambodians. Realizing this challenge, the Seventh-day Adventist Church established an Urban Center of Influence, or UCI, in the city of Battambang. The UCI's aim is to help improve people's health and lifestyle in this region.
As Jesus taught us how to live a better life, we want to use this place to share people how to have a better life and encourage them to learn about Jesus Christ. In this center of influence, we have a vegetarian restaurant where people not only just come and enjoy the healthy food, but we want to teach them how to prepare healthy food for themselves. We have an educational center where we can teach them Korean and English and maybe perhaps Chinese and Japanese, where people can learn different languages. And also we provide music program So we want to teach them violin and piano to equip them with musical education. And we also have a medical clinic and dental clinic where people can come and be treated like Jesus healed the people. And we also have a worship center where people can come and worship God together in this center.
While the UCI is still under construction, volunteers are beginning to build bridges in the community through various outreach programs. Every day, volunteers visit people who are sick to provide medical assistance, companionship, and prayer. These opportunities allow them to share the gospel with the sick, many of whom are inspired by these messages as they experience the process of healing.
After the doctor declared that the surgery was done, I was so happy. Nothing can compare to the joy that I felt when I knew they finished the operation on my foot. And knowing that everything will be just fine, and I don't need to deal with the same issue again. So they visited me and cleaned me up every day. My life was changed. I was so happy. No words can describe how happy I am right now.
Let's continue to pray for our volunteers and for our Urban Center of Influence project in Battambang, Cambodia.
I don't know if you were watching. If you're listening, we'll just describe that center of influence, that large building. About what's the square footage of that? You're probably not architectural.
No.
Okay. That was a huge building.
It's
It
big.
was a beautiful building.
Yeah.
And healthy cooking. What are some of the other things that were being done there?
Healthy cooking, they do clinics as well.
Okay. Dental clinic.
Dental clinic,
Yeah.
medical clinic, teaching music,
Mm-hmm.
teaching language. They're teaching English, teaching Korean.
Wow.
Health classes, cooking classes, probably exercise as well. I know they put in a big football field.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The reason for this multi-purpose building and the ball field and all that is that this is one of the largest cities in that part of Cambodia. And it's a university town, a lot of young people, and these young people are quite open and are interested in these things. And this is a wonderful way to really connect with them.
That's good.
And that's the future of the church are the young people.
That's true.
So
you can't ignore the young people. If you ignore the young people, the church begin to die. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That center of influence. So when you hear that phrase, center of influence, it's a continual, not one day a week, but it's an everyday outreach to the community, making an impact. As you mentioned, medically, socially, health-wise, cooking, dentistry, and also introducing Christ through all these mediums into a community. That's amazing. Gary, you live an exciting life.
Thank you.
When you get to heaven, you're going to see these people from all over the world. You're going to say, Gary, remember me? You met me in Mozambique. I was in Sri Lanka. And the work and this is the rewarding thing about it, is we often look at the gospel as preaching, teaching, evangelism. This is a whole nother avenue of the gospel. That is, in fact, all of those things, but in a different garment.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, John, I'm an administrator. I help oversee different things. I help promote things, et cetera, et cetera. It's the people on the ground. It's the global mission pioneers who sacrificially move into an area. They live among the people. They're the people who are my heroes. Whenever I meet them, I say, Lord, I don't know what sacrifice is. This is sacrifice here, and there's a special place in heaven for these people.
Amen. And as you mentioned that, administratively speaking, there are people that are carrying these programs on as you move on to different regions to see what needs to be done in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, we're going to talk about this one. Before we talk about Helen Hall, because this is a very interesting video called A Daily Mission. But just talk about Helen Hall before we go to this next role.
Yeah, this woman is a real inspiration. She's 81 years old.
Wow.
And she has, since August 28, 1979, she has been working as a volunteer in Southeast Asia. And she started Eden Valley Academy, which is for refugees fleeing Myanmar during the civil unrest there. And she's been there. She's the longest serving volunteer with Adventist Volunteer Services. And it's amazing how she is helping these children who are stuck in limbo in these camps where they don't have documents, they don't have the opportunities to be able to get the education and things that they need. And she's been there for decades. And she's just such an inspiration. She's been awarded by the government of Australia for her humanitarian service. She's been recognized by other organizations. And Andrews University offered her an honorary doctorate.
Wow.
And so she's Dr. Helen Hall, but she's just a real inspiration.
What a heart. I mean, that takes a lot of dedication when you're in a country that you're not a native of. And then you realize a lot of these young people, their lives would have ended maybe tragically, or they'd have been in some kind of incarceration, or who knows what the future would have been had it not been for this arm of Christ. Kind of like a selfless humanitarian.
And also, as a volunteer, she receives a small stipend for her work, but she doesn't have all the benefits and retirement benefits and all these types of things, but she receives so much blessing, because we know, as Christ said, you know, it's more blessed to give than to receive. And she's living that.
She does have a retirement plan. It's out of this world.
Amen.
Let's go ahead and enjoy this. A daily mission, and particularly Helen Hall is highlighted in this.
If you have just a roof over your head and enough space, you can work, and the kids can learn. I get a great deal of pleasure when I see kids who've come from a family where no one's ever been to school, and that they're the first ones to go through to grade 6, then they're the first ones to finish year 12, and they're the first ones to go to college.
Adventist Volunteer Services, or AVS, is an opportunity for people to serve in a mission setting globally. This can include a huge variety of jobs. Helen Hall is an AVS worker, originally from Australia, now working in an Adventist school in Asia. She runs the school that ranges from grades 1 to 12. Her dedication and passion to the job has allowed hundreds of children to graduate and to move on to opportunities they might never have had otherwise.
John is holding a manila. Bat.
The mission at this school is for students to receive a quality Adventist education, both academically and spiritually. But most of the students here are not Christians, making it hard to reach them spiritually.
It's very difficult for a Buddhist to become a Christian. And if they do it too quickly, then it causes big problems in their family. But if they wait and go a little more slowly, then they can get by.
Helen's experience has taught her what works and what doesn't work in reaching the students. She has had quite a bit of success in teaching her students about Jesus.
Well, a normal day, we try to get everybody at worship by 8:30 or 8:20, and then we just go through the classes. We've got a lot of teachers here who, when they came to us as students, none of them were from Christian homes. And they're wonderful workers now.
After students graduate, they will usually go on to university. After university graduation, some students agree to come back to the school and work a certain number of years. This is how Helen has guaranteed workers to keep the school running.
Some people have to do a ton that you can't do. Oscar gloved and choked over his glass of water. Such a display of wit from Dad was almost unknown.
She teaches right along with the other teachers. Students pay close attention to the valuable lessons she gives in a variety of topics including sciences, English, math, and the Bible. Atu is a graduate from Helen's school. He now works in villages telling people about Jesus. Atu has helped start multiple churches in these villages. The villagers love hearing stories from the Bible. Most of them are hearing the name of Jesus for the first time. Atu knows that God has blessed him with the opportunity to do this. He gained a strong grasp on the Bible while at Helen School and is now passing on his knowledge to others. He is just one of many graduates using what they have learned in school for God's glory. Despite all the success from this school, the challenges are big. In addition to religious barriers, things such as financial resources, shortage of educational materials, and even lack of space are constant challenges. But when these challenges surface, Helen looks to someone she knows can pull through the situation.
When you get this discouraged, the Lord sends us some blessing or something, and then you know that He's still with us. No man's got wisdom enough to know what to do. Only God can know and guide us as to how we should go.
As you can see, the work of an AVS worker has the power to change lives. They can teach people about Jesus and set them on the right path. Helen is just one of many AVS workers around the world facing the challenge of mission daily. Please pray for these workers and thank you for supporting the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
As you're watching these video rolls, you might think, well, young people, that's a field for you to go in. But I want Gary to kind of give us a highlight, because how old or how young do you have to be involved in these missions?
Well, you know, the Adventist volunteer services, usually you think of young people going out for a year or so, but, you know, someone like Helen shows that it can be any age. And when we look at global mission pioneers who are planting churches, most of them are young people. But we still have some in their 70s, their 80s who are doing it as well. So God is not limited by gender or age.
Wow.
Yeah.
Availability, not necessarily ability, but availability.
Right.
And you're watching the program. We'll continue to give you information on how you can donate. 618-627-4651, where you can call your donations in. These videos are examples, just snippets of the work that is being done by Adventist missions around the world. Volunteers in various parts of the world, different languages, different cultures. As you've seen, we've been to so many parts of the world, but this is how you can travel with your donations. You can make an impact in a person's life, in a community's life, and the end result will be the light will come on and somebody will get to know Christ, so that when He does come, these villages will not be without hope. I appreciate so much what you guys do. I mean, it's amazing. I'm just so excited about the roles that we still have left. And we're going to go to Japan now. Youth Set Church on Fire. Tell me what that's all about.
Well, this is another example of when God has a plan, He calls a man or a woman to carry that plan out. He doesn't go mission without us. And this is a story about a church that was dying. It was growing old. It was shrinking in size. And a young man worked with the church, and they asked that it become a church for the young people. And that's what it is today. It's amazing.
Youth Set Church on Fire in Japan. Let's just enjoy that to see what the young people are doing through the moving of the Spirit of God.
God placed this burden on me. For the last few years, I've been having this burden because, you know, less than 1% are Christian in Japan. It's a big country, lots of people, but for some reason, the everlasting gospel is not being communicated.
Tokyo is the world's largest metropolitan area with almost 40 million people. The challenge of reaching a city of this size might seem impossible, but God can use anyone, even someone on the other side of the world, to spark change. Daniel grew up in California as a third-generation Japanese American. He always told himself he would be open to God's plans for his life. After much prayer, he knew that God wanted him to move across the globe to work in Japan, and Daniel accepted the call to serve in Tokyo.
Even though I grew up in America, my mom and my dad helped me retain the Japanese language. So I was able to communicate and read and write. So I believe that I felt like God was calling me to go to Japan and use the talents for his cause over in Japan.
He was assigned to work alongside the pastor of the Setagaya Adventist Church, where in 2016, there were less than 10 people attending each week. The church was about ready to shut down when Daniel arrived. He knew that God had bigger plans for this congregation, so he began working to make the church a landmark in the community.
Here in Japan, there's a lot of lonely people. They just commit to work or school, and a lot of them are lonely, so they want fellowship. So I think that's what the Japanese people need. We just need to mingle with them.
Mingling is just one of the steps in Christ's method. Jesus mingled with people to get to know their needs and earn their trust. Daniel decided to try to reignite this church's mission spirit with a fresh approach. He invited young people and held evangelism training for them in the church.
We have young people, college age, high school age, young adults, stay in a church for 3 weeks. We eat meals together, we have devotions, worships, Bible studies together, and we train how to knock on doors, how to communicate with people, how to pray with people. And it's been a blessing. And the students really grow a lot. They really have this identity as Seventh-day Adventists and the mission spirit.
This once dwindling church transformed overnight into a youth training center. As the young members reached out to their local community through prayer and face-to-face interaction, attendance quickly grew 5-fold, and word is spreading throughout the community.
When we go out to this community, sometimes we cannot meet the people around this area, but sometimes God sent the people to our church. When the people come to our church, I feel that Jesus is working for this church.
The church is now essentially run by young people with a passion to reach the people of Tokyo for Jesus. And if you ask them why they love this church,
Oh, this church is so special because the young people, they have power and passion and energy to reach out to people.
They are so friendly and kind. I really enjoy spending time here with everyone.
It's great to see how the young people are getting excited about God and the Bible.
In my experience, I have developed a stronger prayer life. I have direct communication with God as I reach out to people. I learned the joy of communicating with God.
Daniel decided to expand the Setagaya Church's programs to include youth from all over Tokyo.
Once a month, we have an event where young people from all over the Tokyo area come and we stay in sleeping bags at the church. 50 to 70 young people come, stay at the church, study the Bible, sing songs, and have fellowship. And it's been a blessing.
This group continues to grow thanks to the efforts of reigniting the church's mission spirit. Setagaya church members are exploring new ways to break down barriers and show the love of God to the people of Tokyo. Many people in this city are busy and isolated, but still long for connection with others.
When young people get on fire for Jesus, I believe the entire church gets on fire for Jesus. And so that's why working with the young people is such an honor, such a privilege. And I believe when we get the young people on fire, the entire country of Japan will be on fire.
Mission challenges in Japan are real and continue to grow. Please pray for the Setagaya church members as they ask for God's help in spreading His love throughout the largest city on earth. Your prayers in support of the mission offerings go a long way to encourage mission in Japan and around the world.
Japan is an amazing city, a country, and Tokyo is an amazing city. Reiterate that because people listening to that may have missed. Statistically, did they say the largest city in the world?
Yeah, but this largest city in the world, 37 million people. And even though there are a number of Adventist churches across the city, in the heart of the city, you can have up to 2 million people for one church that church is responsible to reach out to. It's just a massive and incredible challenge, really, to do that. And so as the initiative of the church is actually taking an unusual step and sending a team of several full-time missionaries to go and work there to do church planting, start centers of influence, to raise up to 20 global mission pioneers, just to start new groups of believers all over the city, especially focusing on young adults, both professionals but also in the universities. Because as Daniel Fukuda mentioned there in the video, it's the young people that if they are on fire, then all of Japan will catch that fire.
I like that because young people, they have that drive and that mission. But you talked about the statistics. We talk about baptisms, we say, well, we had 9 baptisms, we had 15 baptisms. Talk about the difficulty of that in Japan.
Yeah, when we look around the world today, we see phenomenal growth in some areas. Southern half of the continent of Africa, just unbelievable.
Exploding.
The Philippines, Jamaica, Papua New Guinea in my home field, where God has blessed. And it seems that people are very receptive. But you go to some areas such as the 1040 windows, areas such as Tokyo, and, I say kind of lightly, but with some truth, that when you have 100 baptisms in a place like the Philippines, it's kind of like the equivalent of 1 baptism in Tokyo. It's that hard. It's that difficult. The ground, for some reason, is so where the people have a different cultural background and they're just not as receptive to what we're sharing. And so when I see a report here where these young people are touching their neighbors, they're reaching the community where 1 person is baptized, I'm envisaging the angels in heaven rejoicing as much as they do when they see 100 in other parts of the world, because this is a victory for the kingdom. And so we prize, we thank God for every single person that we see baptized.
That text in the Bible, there's rejoicing in heaven over 1 sinner that repented. Right. That was written with Japan in mind.
I think you're right.
I mean, not just Japan, but that fits so beautifully right here.
Right.
It's amazing because we don't think about that. We think, there's only, I only got 7 people to be baptized. In Japan, that's like 700.
That's right.
Wow. And so you guys, have you been on the ground in Japan?
Yes.
Wow, you guys have
over the last 2 years, we have been a part of a church planting training for a number of pastors in preparation for this new unusual mission project starting in 2020.
Okay.
So the team has already been trained and prepared, and we're looking forward to God's blessing as it starts work.
I'd like to talk about Mission Unusual.
Yeah. So it's an initiative that focuses on, there's so many needy areas of the world, but to look at particular mission challenge areas such as Tokyo. So this is the first focus for this Mission Unusual, where we will be bringing in an unusual number of missionaries, an unusual number of global mission pioneers, because it's such a challenging area. The next area that we're focusing on will be a city in Turkey that will have influence. So, and we've been talking about the annual sacrifice offering tonight.
Yes.
Well, next week, next Wednesday, we will be having our Mission Board Strategy and Funding Committee, and on that agenda, we will be taking from Global Mission a proposal that we would like to have voted $3 million from Global Mission to go to Tokyo to help centers of influence, to help pioneers, to help church planting.
Wow.
The $3 million, that doesn't come from nowhere.
That's right.
And that's going to come directly from the annual sacrifice offering. Every cent will come from the annual sacrifice offering.
I want to make a particular push because there's somebody watching this program. If you're driving in your car, I want to also appeal to you, but if you've been watching this program, you could see the different people groups in that 1040 window and the centers of influence, the stimulation in the hearts of the young people that are saying, if the young people get on fire, Tokyo gets on fire. The medical projects that have taken place, the libraries, the centers of influence. We saw there a moment ago in Cambodia and in Sri Lanka. And we didn't get a chance to see the one raising the bar in Moldova, but Ecuador. it's all over the world. And as you get together with your committee and Adventist missions decide where are we going to go next, the door is opened as they count how far can we go, and that's where you come in. And we'd like to encourage you, during the program, we have about 13 minutes left in our program, but if you want to donate, you can call right here, 618-627-4651, and participate in donations. We have people on the other side of that phone line right now. And just a plug, if you're not watching this during the live, you can still donate by going to the website following global-mission, just as it sounds, .org/my-sacrifice, just as it sounds. Once again, global-mission.org/my-sacrifice. And know as you do, it's really a sacrifice that will really add up to lives for the kingdom, transformed communities. And you know, in Japan, places like Japan, they're fighting against high technology and booming secularism. And not only that, an ancient mindset that has held the people captive for many, many years. You experienced that. So now let's talk about Moldova. We're going to get it's actually Mongolia.
Mongolia, yes.
Okay, the Mongolian young missionary. Talk about that briefly before we see that.
Yeah, you know, we've been talking about how old do you have to be a missionary, and really, you know, we're talking about the young people in Setekaya in Tokyo, but this next little clip is about an even younger missionary. And I want to appeal, if there's any children watching, and maybe you are, you can be a missionary where you are. You can start right now with the people that you know and be a missionary, and that's what this little clip is about.
Okay, Mongolia's young missionary.
Winters in Mongolia are some of the toughest on Earth. The snow, the ice, and the winds create a brutally cold living environment. People huddle inside their ger houses where it's warm and cozy. The Mongolian people endure cold for many months of the year, but eventually the seasons change. The summer brings life and activity. Construction continues, doors open, and horses graze on the blanket of grass covering the ground. For the children, this warmth means they can play outside.
I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord.
Each year, children from the capital city of Ulaanbaatar gather together for summer camp. They spend hours having fun and spending time with each other. There are lots of activities that help the children learn about Jesus. The younger kids are making lions. While they work, the teachers tell the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Some of these children have never heard stories like this before. Imagine the excitement of hearing these Bible stories for the first time. Just a few years ago, Gabriel's family moved to Mongolia from South America to be missionaries. Life in Mongolia is very different from South America. The weather is different, the food is different, and they came here not knowing anybody. Living on the other side of the world can be hard, but Gabriel has adjusted to living here and has made some new friends. This year, they are joining the summer camp in a beautiful, remote location. One thing Gabriel and his friends love to do is play soccer. They can play for hours in the summer, and it makes Mongolia feel a little more like home for Gabriel. After their game, the team sits and talks. Gabriel's friends don't speak Spanish, so they communicate in English. And Gabriel is even learning the Mongolian language. They are very grateful for the summer camp. This group of friends stops to thank Jesus for this special opportunity. Not all the kids are Christian, but some are curious about Jesus because of Gabriel and his friends. Although Gabriel is far from home, he knows that God has a special plan for him. Please pray for Gabriel and other missionary kids around the world. Pray that they can share Jesus with others around them.
Now, when I think about Mongolia, I noticed there was some snow there, right? Then there was another time of year where they had short T-shirts on. If you invite me, take me to the part of the year with the short T-shirts. What an amazing place to be in, Mongolia. Have you been to Mongolia?
Yes.
Wow. I shouldn't even ask those questions because you guys have been pretty much everywhere. When you talk about Mongolia as young missionaries, so what's the age limit to be a missionary?
I don't think there is an age limit,
Okay.
honestly.
When we first moved to Asia, we had a 5-month-old baby.
Wow.
And our vehicle was a little motorbike. And we would, Sabbath afternoon, we'd take a drive into some villages, and immediately children and adults were very interested to see this small baby. And we found that our 5-month-old was the best missionary of all of us in attracting people so that we could talk to them. So age does not matter.
And when you make these appeals, and I think that earlier we did one in the first hour, and I want our viewers to see that appeal again, because it's really important when you talk about these appeals. It's a short, about 1 minute and 13 seconds. I want you to look particularly at this appeal. Gary Krause is informing you, again, if you missed the first part, informing you how impacting missions is and your participation and how it makes a difference in the future in lives of those that we've talked about, and many more to come.
Global mission pioneers are the unsung heroes of Adventist mission. Around the world today, hundreds of global mission pioneers, lay people, go to new areas and new people groups to start a new Seventh-day Adventist congregation. Many of the places where they begin work are areas where the church has never had any success in the past, but nobody has told the pioneers that they can't do it. And on a small living stipend, these pioneers go and live among the people, and they put Christ's method of ministry into practice. They mingle with the people in various ways, in the rice fields, playing soccer with the kids, in the cities. They show sympathy, they minister to needs in very practical ways, and then they win the confidence of the people and bid them to follow Jesus. I've seen pioneers using many, many different methods to meet the needs of the people, where they have embedded themselves like Jesus did incarnationally in the community. Historically, the annual sacrifice offering has come at the end of the week of prayer, and it's an opportunity for us to sacrifice for mission. So I encourage you to please give generously to this important offering.
You know, there's a passage in the book of Isaiah, you know, who will go for us? And it's interesting, Isaiah, that appeal was not directly to him. That was a general appeal, but he heard it, and he said what? Here I am, send me. I did that because I don't want to miss this video. This is an amazing video, send me. And that appeal is to those who are watching and listening to the program, because it's not just us going financially, but you can participate. You may have a life that could be somewhat sedentary, and you say, you know, I feel the voice of God calling me to participate in Adventist missions. This might inspire you to get involved, not only financially, but maybe in a very tangible way. We can unpack our bags now. We've just been to about 11 countries. And that was not only stimulating, but inspiring. Gary and Greg and Amy, I want you to just challenge our listeners and our viewers right now, because we're talking about a program that is changing lives, not only temporarily and academically and socially and spiritually, but for the future. Talk about how important this is.
Sure, thank you. You know, the reason that we're here as a church is not just for maintenance. I mean, it's important for us to keep what we're doing and to support our existing churches. That's vital. But if we lose our focus on reaching out to the communities and to unreached people, then we lose our identity, the reason we're here, and we get distracted by everything. So this is a reminder to us of what is most important, and that is the Great Commission, to share the love of Jesus with people who, for whatever reasons, have not had that opportunity. And those of us who have been blessed, we are called to bless others. And this is one venue. The annual sacrifice offering is one venue for doing this. Adventist churches around the world on November 9 will be collecting the annual sacrifice offering. So if you're a Seventh-day Adventist church member, just write on your tithe envelope, annual sacrifice offering, and you can give right there. But more importantly, as you've reminded us, our involvement, our prayers, they all make a difference. So thank you for this opportunity to share.
Yes, I think we have an address roll, if I'm not mistaken. We'd like to go to that very briefly, and then we'll come back with a few closing thoughts.
The address is Global Mission 12501, Old Columbia Pike, Silver Spring, Maryland, 20904. Or you can go to our website at global-mission.org/mysacrifice. And you can also call our office at 800-648-5824.
Thank you so much for that, Gary. You know, Amy and Greg, I want to give you an opportunity to chime in before we close out our program. Your life has been transformed. How can you challenge our audience, our viewers and our listeners? 30 seconds.
I would say if you're feeling any sort of a call, follow it. You will be changed, you will be challenged, you will grow, and you'll learn to love Jesus and learn to love people in a completely new and different way.
That's right.
You know, we have this beautiful view that we read in Christ's Object Lessons that says that Christ is waiting with longing desire for his character to be perfectly reproduced in his people, and then he will come back and take us with us to him to heaven. But we know that his character at its deepest point is love. God is love, and if our lifestyle is a lifestyle like his, we will love the lost, love the people who need hope in their lives.
That's right. And as you know, the sum total of missions is this: as much as you've done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. Continue praying for Adventist missions and praying for us here at 3ABN. Thank you for joining us, and may the Lord bless you until we see you again.